Well, all right. I would like to ask a question that's not on the list. It's about Kundalinis. We haven't had anyone speak about Kundalinis in years. And one of our guests is Gary Jacobs, who's an artist, a well-known artist in Hartford. And he, I don't remember how many years ago it was, Gary, but Gary had shared his Kundalini. I was wondering, I know Gary, you don't want to talk about your experience, but could you give an idea of what Kundalini? You have to turn on your microphone.
Okay. In the clinical sense, Kundalini, I guess, would be described as the life force or the universal force in the universe that moves through us. I think in traditional Eastern philosophies, it may be called the the flow between the infinitely condensed and the infinitely expanded. We seem to be poised somewhere in the middle there, as is most of this existence. And the balance there accounts for how we operate and what our bodies, how our bodies function, and at least an energetic level. And is supposed to channel between, our lowest chakras, which would be, the first chakra, grounding energy, and the crown chakra, which would be our highest chakra. And that, in essence, the effort to merge and become in harmony, or I don't know how else to say it, at one with that energy. I guess make it conscious is to bring the energy up from the lowest chakras to the highest chakras, or pure consciousness, which in any Eastern tradition that I've ever known about is considered the God experience, the Godhead experience, or the quote unquote enlightenment experience, or the fulfillment of our human potential. It's I guess the overlap with NDE experiences would be that when that kind of simultaneity happens, it shares a lot of the characteristics that are reported from people who have had NDEs. How's that? For off the cuff.
Very good. I appreciate that, Gary. Thank you. I know when you're ready, you're going to be one of our speakers in the future.
Sure.
Yes, welcome, Wendy. I mean, did you want to say something? You have to turn on your mic. Oh, okay. All right. With that, we'll open up the forum for discussion. Is there something, some issue or question or whatever someone would like to ask or present?
Jack, Rob has raised his hand. Rob?
Yeah, one of the things about Kundalini, often it causes a certain amount of emotional angst, or sometimes emotional chaos. The people who seek help often are described as being bipolar. because our mental health doesn't recognize things such as paranormal as that. Okay, so they have a full awakening of the senses. They see colors. Some will hear voices, and they'll be described as being bipolar. And I had a client that I've worked with who, when I talked to him and realized what was going on, we changed his diagnosis, but I had to change it just between me and him so that the doctor didn't hear and told him he didn't have bipolar, he had a Kundalini. So it's something to be aware that when Kundalini becomes full blossom, it causes considerable, most of the time, emotional chaos in the person's life, at least for a short while.
Okay, thank you for that, Bob. Well, I'll ask the first question. I have a great interest in the phenomena that take place when someone in your family dies, and it's like you're getting messages from the other side, from the deceased, and there are many forms of these messages, but the most common are electrically based, like garage doors opening or closing, lights flickering, going on, off, and issues that are electrically based. And I've been kind of researching to find, I'm trying to find an electrical engineer, how much electrical energy is needed to trip a garage door button and cause the garage door to open or close, because it's one of the most popular phenomenons. So, but recently I was thinking, well, wait a minute. Maybe these phenomenons, lights going on and off, when, I mean, I was at my brother's wake, and while I was kneeling by my brother, later my wife mentioned that the lights in the room were flickering while I was there. So anyway, so I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe it's not my brother who's doing this. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's the poltergeist aspect that we all have. Maybe I'm the one that's causing the lights to flicker and not a message from my brother. So I open that up for discussion. What do you think?
So Jack, haven't you watched the movie Ghost? That was a funny one, but there is truth to that movie. When they come through, they do manipulate things. As they get stronger into that other realm, they become more powerful in manipulating objects, so electricity and all that. That's been my experience.
Okay. Well, Monroe, who able to create spontaneous out-of-body experiences, and he had thousands of these. I'm sorry, these OBEs, and he found that there were different realms, and some of them were very dangerous and unstable. So, would it be another spirit in the negative spirit? But let me ask you all, how many of you recall having an event take place when someone close to you has died that was either electrically based or another common another common connection is through birds. There are different types of birds, that hummingbirds, etc. That the red-tailed hawks are very popular, messengers, etc. Is there anyone who recalls experiencing something, or I'm not the only one. It's just that I'm paying attention, and most of you don't, because something happens that is not normal, and you just sort of shrug it off and then go on. It's like a dream. Within 10 seconds, it's gone, right? So is there anyone who has had an experience like the ones I'm describing? Yes, Bethany.
I just wanted to say that Sue and Donna have their hands up, and I don't know if you saw that, and also Rob does too.
So,
And
who's
Wendy.
gonna go first?
oh yes, Wendy.
Who wants
Who's
to
first? Who would you
I
like?
think Wendy's talking, but her microphone is off.
I got it. Sorry,
Okay.
I just got home. Yeah, I had an owl outside the window of my room at my mother's house. There used to be a tree right outside one of the windows in the bedroom. It sat in the limb of the tree all day long, staring in the window. Shortly after my husband died, and I had birds continually come to the window. So I live in a really huge building in Cambridge, but they just kept coming to my window. And but I also heard his voice. I also saw my dog when she died, felt her on the bed. But yeah, the birds totally. I've had ladybugs all over the window.
Oh yes, oh, yes, ladybugs too. That's right. Well,
And
yeah.
a ladybug come in with me to a friend's house, but all over my window.
Oh, Wendy, have you written down these events?
I just remember them. I didn't write them, but I remember them.
Remember them? Oh, well, I mean, the reason I'm asking is I wondered if you might, if you don't mind, writing those events down and sending them to me for my my collection.
Sure.
I mean,
Do I need your email address, or
I
do I
think,
put it in?
yes, my email address is jackart31, JACKART31 at AOL.com.
Okay. Sure.
I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Anyone else?
Who else had their hands up?
So,
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Jack, you mentioned maybe like a poltergeist, the lights and stuff. You're co-creator with the universe. And the power of the subconscious mind and the desires we have is extremely powerful, and it plays upon the universe and the things in the universe as well. And that's the reason we have such a hard time convincing the community at large about these events, because they'll discount it of, well, that was just wishful thinking and stuff. And sometimes it may be, Jack. Remember, that power is so strong and we don't recognize it. The thing is, at least my experience, that there'll be something that will either collaborate it down the road or something additional. But when you get family members, let you know, they may only do it once, okay? But they usually will say, hey, this is me, and they'll let you know. And I've had people who said they got a call from their deceased loved one on their cell phone, and that's interesting. Okay, their phone started ringing, and they're looking at the person's go. They're not even alive anymore, and yet the call was from them, and they got high, and that was it. So I mean, like I said, I don't know where it is, but always being open to it allows one or gives the permission of the universe and us to explore those as options. All right. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Well, you know, the research on this subject. Recently, a friend of mine in Holland lost her husband, and so I had a discussion with her, and I said, you know, did you have any experiences? And I would give her some examples, et cetera, et cetera. And she said, well, I hadn't thought about it, but now that you mention it, my son told me that when he and his wife were sitting in the living room, the lights started to flicker on and off, you know, for a short period of time. So here is, with a little prompting, we connect with these events that we tend to forget. And I mean, I have many events that I've recorded, and not just mine. A very special artist in Kent, a friend of mine, when her husband died, she had 6 different episodes with a red-tailed hawk. And not just in her area, but even when she was in another town, when she was in Hartford, etc. So there are, you know, there are other ways of communicating. And you know, is if indeed, you know, when someone is dead and on the other side, and if, in quotation marks, if they make an effort to communicate, you know, it's sometimes, and I say quite often it's electrical, because we're electrical beings, and you know, my guess is that when we expire, the mind, all this information actually separates from the body and continues. Anyway, that's a whole different story. Anyway.
Okay.
So, Jack, Donna, Gordon, and then Greg have their hands up. Donna?
Okay, good.
Donna.
I just wanted to say that a year after my mother-in-law passed, which was now about 3 years ago, a year after a Jewish person dies, we have what's called an unveiling in the cemetery of their memorial tablet. And so what we do is we put before the ceremony, it's a fairly brief ceremony, we put a white cloth on the memorial tablet. And so my husband and I had gotten to the cemetery early, and so we were looking around. There were a lot of mosquitoes and birds, but there weren't any dragonflies. And so when at the appropriate time when we took the cloth off the marker, as I was pulling the white cloth off the marker, a very, very large dragonfly that we had not seen any of them in the cemetery at all came, and it lit right down on her name, and it must have stayed there for a good 10-20 seconds before it flew off. But we had not seen one at all any other time, and it was all, and everybody was watching it. It wasn't as though it was scared of anybody. It just kind of like was just sitting there. It wasn't flitting about. It just sat right there on the marker, right as we did the ceremony. So, and it was all the important people in her lives, her children, her husband, and her dear sister and family. So it was quite a very moving thing for us at the time. We really felt her presence at the time.
Well, thank you. That's a good episode. And Donna, I would like to ask you also, be kind enough to send me that. I would appreciate it. That's an excellent story.
Thanks.
Well, who else had their?
Greg had his hand up, according to Bethany. Greg, are you still there? We'll come back to him. But I wanted, I put it in my book, and please feel free to use it, make a note of it, whatever, because my father, the same day that he passed, he came to me and that evening. And he stayed, I could actually see him. I could see through him, but he came as I could see, it was like a holographic imagery, and I could see it through on the other side, but he looked like he was about half his age. So that kind of emphasized my belief that we do go back to our prime once we cross over.
I want to share a story, not
Thank
the
you, Tina.
disease. Jack, are you done?
I'm sorry.
Are you talking?
I'm here.
Oh,
No,
okay. I thought you were talking to
who wanted
Tina.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple of stories. One is when I was 13, my youngest aunt, she ran away with a guy from out of the state, from another state. So because she eloped, my grandparents disowned her. So 3 years later, one day I saw a bird. That type of bird in China has a meaning that means a good luck bird type of bird. When I saw that bird, I immediately thought of my aunt. I told my mom, I said, my aunt will come back today. So in the middle of the night, I was woken up by my aunt. She somehow came back without any notice and came back with a baby. And the same day, I saw that bird delivering that message. So I had the inner knowing that she's coming back. So, so it created a new family reunion, and my grandparents forgive her and her husband and her baby. So that's the story. Happened not from disease, but is a communication through birth. Another story is I was a teenager. One day I was at my maternal grandma's house, and my cousin, she's my age, she walked from her home to my grandma's home, and as she got there, she was super excited. She told me the story of on the way to my grandma's, there is a kid that we both knew, and because it's a small village, everybody knows everybody. That kid, her grandma recently died, and her grandma has a physical manifestation after death. She came back on the top of a building, because in my village it's all one story and this building is 2 stories. And she's visiting the granddaughter. According to my cousin, this lady showing very long hair and flowing, and flew down to hug the granddaughter, and the granddaughter kind of passed out. So she said there's a group of people all saw that. And when she described to me, I felt so shocked and surprised, very scared. As I was listening to her, I felt my hair all standing up. And then I was so scared. I was running. I tried to run into the house. I thought the ghost may come. And I was running. I heard some fluttering sound inside the house. I was so super scared. It could be I make up with my mind, But the story she shared with me, she said she saw it. Everybody saw it. There's a bunch of people, neighbors and stuff, all saw the ghost on top of the building and flying into the house, interacting with the granddaughter. So that's the ghost story that I heard. And another topic suggestion is I'm reading a book by a somewhat famous speaker. He had a revelation when he was teaching his, he's a CEO of a company. When he was teaching the staff members how to master sales, he had ideas right on the spot, which he didn't thought before, which he mentioned that the flow state he entered is kind of like in the zone. And he used the word channeling because he's the type of person who you would not expect to use the word channeling. So he really meant it. The message wasn't coming from him, seems to be coming from a higher source. So my question is how to tap into that source for business. Like the people in the business world, they don't use the word channeling. They say in the zone, or they say in the flow, or they may use other words, but it's the same type of same type of concept. And there's in the NLP, neuro linguistic programming, studied the language patterns, and they came up with a method of switching into zone, like a switch, by using anchoring. What they call is anchoring. It's two things happen simultaneously, like the Pavilion dog, or I don't know exactly. The Russian scientists did the experiment, showing the dog a piece of meat at the same time, ring a bell. Yeah, Pavilion dog. And when the dog start to form an association of the bell and the meat, and then they don't need to present the meat anymore. When they ring the bell, the dog start to salivate because it's anchored to the bell. So that's a lot of self-help gurus use, is to use anchoring. If they want to achieve the best they can, where they are connected to the resource, connected to source, they will do anchoring. When they reach that state, maybe they do a nasal inhaler, or maybe they clap their hands or do a power pose. So they link that state with a posture. Once that connection is formed, they just use their body posture to get into that the mental state. It's kind of like switch to that state in the zone, that type of state where they can have high performance. So my question is, does anyone know the best way to switch to the high performance state without using drugs?
So I can share my experience with that, but I believe Greg had a problem with his mic, and now he's back. Do you still want to share, Greg?
Oh, sure. I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, my camera's on now. It's actually my wife who wants to share. This is Jennifer.
Hi.
Okay. Hi, Jennifer.
So I just want to share a cool story.
Go ahead.
So can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So my mother passed away 35 years ago when I was only 6, and she came to me when I was 22. So when I was 22, I was going through a rough time in life, and so my boy, well, he's my husband now, but he was my boyfriend back then.
Hi.
So we were, he was at my apartment I was living in at the time, and we were just lying in bed together, just cuddling. And all of a sudden he felt this like breeze by his feet, and then he heard, somebody say, "Tell her I love her." And so it was my mother, and and she was so she started to communicate, and she's like, she said, don't worry, you know, you got to hang in there, you know, eventually things are going to be great, you know. And so at the end of the communication, she said, always remember the watchtower. And so I had no idea what that was. I was like, okay, watchtower. So the next morning, I'm sleeping, I get this knock on my door, and I'm still in my jammies, I'm like half asleep, you know. And so I open the door. It's these two Jehovah's Witnesses, and they hand me a booklet that says the Watchtower. And I was like, oh. So then I knew, like, wow, okay, that's a sign.
I think that was confirmation, if anything. It wasn't that like we're pushing Jehovah's Witnesses from beyond, you know. But,
yeah, and then actually not too long ago, my mother's friend said that, oh yeah, when your mother was alive, she used to talk to those Jehovah's Witnesses when they came over our apartments. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I don't know. That's my story.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was good.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Sue. I mean, you know, the thing about these events is that they're generally witnesses. It's not just something that you experience. It's out there, and it's visible, and it's confirmed by more than one person, and that's what makes this so so interesting for me. Is that it's apparent that it's an open statement of their presence. Well, oh, okay. Any others? Someone else said, was there someone else?
Well, Jack, now there was I know I was gonna touch on this, but it was based on your question, Sue. Could you repeat the question that you had at the end of your sharing?
Okay, my question is, what is the most effective way to switch to the flow state or to the zone? Whatever, like different people use different terms, but basically you are connected to the greater wisdom, to your highest performance.
Well, in my case, I can tell you that ever since I was 2 years old, at that time, I didn't even know that other people didn't do that. I would see and hear what I called at that time my beautiful lady. She would float around the room until I fell asleep. And that went on from the age of 2 until I was about 8 years old, until I realized that at that age, I realized that other people, for some reason, other people didn't do this. So I didn't want to be different. So I said, okay, I don't want to deal with this anymore. But in the meantime, as I grew up, as I was growing up, I would still get these messages that came to me spontaneously from, I guess, spirit, the Akashic records, whatever they were coming from. But I didn't have anyone to talk about this to, so I just kind of pushed it aside. But after I had the visit from the angel over the garage, that's when everything came together for me. And I realized that, see, we all choose. We make a contract even before we come on the earth. We choose what it is that we're supposed to be, what our specialties are as we work here on the earth. And one of my things was to be able to give messages from the other side. And I was told by the angel over the garage that this is it was part of my contract. I chose that. And all I needed to do is, first of all, not be afraid, just allow, trust, and they would do this. They would do the rest. This is what I was told. And the information, when I allow myself to be used as an instrument, the information comes through me. in a way that I see, I hear, or I feel. And that's where I give those messages to my clients. That's how it is for me. But I do know that there are many other modalities. Questions?
Thank you.
Okay, Lori has raised her hands. Lori, where are you? Lori, Blinn?
I forgot my speaker. I'm sorry.
Okay. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Tina. Hello, everyone. Jack, you posed a real interesting question about experiences, and I can think of three. One, my mother was very sick, and she saw her grandfather come to the door and said he was there to get her. And my grandmother said, to him, she's going to be okay. We don't need you. And then asked my mother if he went away, and she said he did. The second one for me was I was 6 years old, and we moved into a, as you know, I was ill from mold, had my near-death experience from mold. We moved into a moldy home, and there was a spirit that existed in the home. And one morning the dog was barking, and my mother said to me, go see if the garbage man is outside. So I walked across the living room to this window that didn't open, and I felt ice cold go through me. And shortly after that, the dog stopped barking. Many other family members experienced things in this home. We all did at the same time, watching TV, and a curtain came out from the window and then went back. We only lived there a year, but I went back there 2 years ago with my brother, and we spoke to the owners, and I said, does anyone sense anything? And that's when the husband said, yes, my wife, you're talking about George. He said, George is still here. So that was confirmed by other people. And more recently, when I was ill and didn't know that I was being poisoned by mold in my home, I was very, very sick. And I was sitting outside on my deck, and I have a skin condition from this illness. And a raven came and sat right next to me, like within a foot away from me. And I thought it wanted some food. I didn't think it was there for me. So I went in the house and I got some peanuts, and I gave it some peanuts, and it didn't leave. It just kept looking at me, and I even took pictures of it. So the next day, my husband and my stepsons came home, and I was sitting out on the deck again, and the raven came back, and they saw it. And I didn't realize at the time that it was really warning me about my condition. And so that was interesting in itself, that I even took pictures of it. And I'd never seen a raven, never mind that up close, where it was pretty much right next to me. But more recently, Sue, you're talking about how to feel things. Well, my first experience recently was I went to see Tina, and I walked through her labyrinth. And at one point, I asked all my angels and guides to come hold my hands and walk with me. And this was my first experience since my NDE of feeling something else. And at that moment that I asked that, my body lit up with goosebumps, tingles, and I knew they were there with me. And all I did was ask them to walk with me, and I felt them. So I've opened the door even more, and by stating with intention that I would be open to be willing to receive messages. And I think it was that intention, that it was a serious, real, true, honest intention that, yes, I'm willing to receive some messages from the other side. And it's been happening more and more often. now sometimes without me asking. The most recent one, Jack, was a friend posts videos on Facebook, and it was a singer that my mother loved. I live in Vernon, Connecticut, and the singer was from here. His name's Gene Pitney. He was called the Rockville Rocket. And I was listening to this song that my mother played over and over again. And my mother passed away in 2014, and I've not felt her since. And I was crying, very emotional, just laying in bed. I don't think I had lights on. And all of a sudden, that my mother's energy came to me. This was just a few days ago. She touched my leg, and my whole body tingled, and I felt it. And I don't hear an actual voice, but I heard, "Oh Lord." And whenever I was feeling distressed or sad, and I would talk to my mom, she would just say, "Oh Lord," as though she cared very much about me. So that's a recent experience. But Sue, I just want to let you know that you really have to put the intention out there. And I don't know if it's because I had a brief NDE or if anyone can do it. But now, like a friend of mine, we were visiting her mother outside the nursing home a week ago. And she showed me a picture of her daughter's ultrasound. And she said they found a lump on the baby's neck that might indicate the baby has Downs or something. Whoosh, the angels came right up from behind me and up my legs and said, "The baby's going to be fine." Now, I don't want to give people messages that I can't actually say for certain that this is going to be, what the message I'm receiving. I need to be careful what I tell people. I'm new to all of this. So I did tell her that, I've been receiving these messages and the angels came to me, and it was a positive feeling. And she thought it was quite interesting that this has been happening to me. So now that I've opened the door to only positive, light, loving sources of energy, it's happening when I don't even ask. And if I'm an administrator of the toxic molds group, and I've connected with a person, and this person had a very, very big spiritual background, a lot of training, a lot of researching, but it's gone from him because he's being toxically poisoned. So he'll ask me if I can get any messages from spirit, and they don't come right away. I sort of get a message when I ask that I'm busy, but I'll be with you in a minute. And when they do come, the message is usually confirming what this person is asking. So, it's a new experience for me. And I think really somehow focusing and getting the intention out to the energy that you are willing to receive these messages is key. So thank you. Thank you, Jack, for asking.
Thank you, Laurie. Well, that kind of opens the door to the, how does intention serve us in receiving messages from a spirit? Now, we have a few people here who have that capability. Would any of
just a quick note, Jack? When Greg's wife said her story that her mother came to her and said, "Tell her I love her," my whole body lit up like a Christmas tree, that her mother definitely came to her and told her she loved her. So it happens without me even trying. So it's interesting.
Like now or back then?
Like now. Wow. Well, thank you, because
Like now, you mean she came through? Or what do you mean?
She felt the love that.
Yes,
Oh, that's cool.
right now, I felt her mother come to me and say, "Yes, I went to her and I gave her that message."
Really?
Yeah.
Thank
right
you so
now.
much. You totally made my
If
night.
you could see the goosebumps on my arm, it's amazing. This happens to me without even trying. It's it's
Really
so
cool.
You know,
interesting.
Thank you, Lori.
I'm not someone who sells myself as a psychic. Usually I'm like half in the bag when these things happen, trying to sleep or whatever. And I've said these things to my wife, and then the next day I'm like, I don't know if that was real, and I guess you confirmed it was, Lori. But you mentioned the goosebumps. That's what I get whenever I think of, one time in particular, I'll tell you is I was newly married to Jennifer, and I woke up and I was telling her a story about the last time I saw my grandfather, my dad's side, my paternal grandfather. I didn't know he was here. I was still living at my parents' house, and he was over, and my mother was talking up the stairs to me, and I was responding, and I hear him say, "Hey, Greg," and I just kind of said, "Oh, hello," and I went back to sleep, not thinking twice about it. And that was the last time I saw him in person, and I told her how I regretted that it didn't occur to me that my grandfather was at the house to go say hi and go talk to him. And when I was telling her that story, I started just feeling this overwhelming, loving presence over me, and it was kind of him telling me, "Hey, it's okay," And you mentioned goosebumps, Lori. I get that all the time whenever I think of somebody from the, who's passed on. Or I get that sometimes when I'm in prayer. It's like God saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm listening." It's cool.
Nice. It's a special feeling, isn't it?
Greg,
Yeah, it is.
Greg,
Yeah.
I can tell you that goosebumps always mean that you're either hearing the truth or getting connected to the truth. It's always about confirmation from your body to you.
And Tina, I can verify that usually when I do feel this, it means I'm hearing the truth.
Yeah.
So I can verify what you're saying, that to me, it seems that it's a verification of what's being talked about is the truth.
Yes.
I don't know if I feel goosebumps, but it's more of like a loving presence. It's sort of like, it's how I know I'm definitely connected to spirit, or I'm connected to positive energy. There's two energies, fear and love, and I'm connected to love at those moments is what I think is happening.
Very good.
I think that people have to find and really be open. Like Jack says, he pays a lot of attention to these occurrences. I think you have to pay attention to what is happening to you, around you, and that kind of thing, to see if you really are getting some kind of message.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. That was very, very interesting. I mean, really, it's an amazing phenomenon. And now, what I have difficulty getting my mind around the channeling and how messages and impressions are transmitted and then it relayed. Anybody address? Okay. All right. Well, is there
Jack, if you would, for me, with this new experience recently, I feel the energy, I feel it enter my body, and I don't actually hear words, but sometimes I can make out what the message is trying to be conveyed. It's just a feeling where maybe words are being put into my head. I'm not hearing words. And if I close my eyes, sometimes I can maybe see light, different things. So, yeah, I think it's interesting that you know, I don't know if Tina has certain indicators. Do you, Tina, that tell you that you're getting a communication, or to try how you go about interpreting it?
Usually it's by intention, where I do my little ritual where I allow myself to be used as an instrument. And then I wait to see what I see, feel, or hear. But the spontaneous messages are those that you know that it's not your mind playing tricks on you, because they cannot be pushed away. And that usually happens to me, like when I'm fresh out of bed in the morning, I get spontaneous messages, either for me or for other people in my life. Does that answer your question? I hope.
I was just wondering if you could give more
Oh,
of
yeah.
a description of what you feel or what you hear, or how you know that you're being communicated to.
When you know, you know. And the more you practice, the more you know, as vivid as if your life was on the line.
I have a question. Maybe it's a on the come on, Jack. Wait a minute. I'm looking at my notes here. Wait. Okay, on an out-of-body experience. Now, there are people who can have an out-of-body experience intentionally by putting their mind to it, etc. Some this happens spontaneously, etc. But when I have and I don't even consider it an out-of-body experience. What I have, it's an intention. And like when my friend up in Hartford was going to the hospital for this serious operation, I was meditating for her, and I was visualizing myself leaving my house and traveling through space, or through the atmosphere, or through the different towns and parts of Connecticut to Hartford. So I was visualizing this, imagining it, visualizing it, and then was able to focus on her in the hospital with healing intention. So that's kind of how it happens for me. But what about how many of you have had an out-of-body experience? Could you please raise your hand? Okay, well, we have pretty good representation. Could you describe how your out-of-body experience is, how it's manifested, how it happens? Who would like to be first? Tell me about your out-of-body experience. Well, now you've had out-of-body experiences. I mean, I'm finding it difficult to understand why you're not willing to share it.
I think Ayla Zierka has her hand up.
Say it again, Bethany.
Ayla Zierka.
Oh, fine. Okay, I was trying to have access to microphone, so it took me late. And now we see if I can use the camera. Okay, give me a second. Okay, can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I had the out of the body experience, and at the time when I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know we called this out of the body experience. And this happened to me. I remember there was Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, and suddenly I get such a like awful stabbing pain. It wasn't the first time. I had this like once a while, and I didn't know what was going on with me. So I lay down a bed, and at the time I learned about Sai Baba. I don't know if you know him. He was my guru. And the pain was so bad. Then I was like praying to him, like begging him, and was like pleasing him, please, please help me. And I was like breathing, didn't know what was going on with me. And suddenly I was in India. I was in ashram with Sai Baba. And I was sitting with everybody and like meditating. And he came, he passed me, and I felt wonderful, such a peaceful. And suddenly I was in my bed again, and the pain was gone. And I'm like, whoa, what just happened? And it was a great, pain was gone, but the experience was very strange for me. And after I shared this with some people, and somebody said, oh, you had the out of the body experience. So this is my story.
Okay, that's interesting, because yours, there wasn't a transportation or traveling through space. You were automatically there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of the NDE stories describe the ability of having a thought and then that thought being realized instantly. Very, very good. Anyone else? Okay, all right. Is there another subject that you would like to address? Anyone?
Jack, and part of our last group, I had a question about how time is different in the other realm than here, and I don't know that we were able to discuss it a lot, but I read a lot of NDE stories, and they describe it as though everything is now. Everything is happening now. There is no past, no present, no future. And I was just wondering if anybody had any more thoughts on this. I'm still trying to comprehend this, that possibly our experience on Earth may truly be in the blink of an eye, according to the other realm kind of thing. And just if anyone has any experiences with time distortion, I'd like to hear about it.
Yes, Lou.
It's kind of like what Tina says, as you learn things and you develop your skills and it becomes more vivid and more understanding. But being in the now, what happens really to all of us is things change, and things can change from moment to moment. But by knowing it and working with it, we can see how it changes. And this is to be very helpful, because even when you're blocked up about a problem, knowing that that's the problem for the moment, and the next moment can change. And with your awareness, you can change. And then the whole thing about questioning and looking and experience expanding is to question why that happened, or what was the situation is. And because we are all different, we have all different makeups, different cultures, different understanding, different experiences and everything. But if you look at it and you see, why am I feeling good? Before I was all blocked up. And then you learn and you build. But the only thing that's very tough, that it can take a long time because our lifestyle, we're so busy and everything. But for me, it takes baby steps. Even this last summer, realizing my weaknesses and things that I was doing wrong, it was very hard to change because I was in my habits and I wanted to change them. But the awareness, processing and looking at it and being in the now, it's amazing because from one moment to the next, the moments can change, you know? But you have to, in yourself, work with it. The one thing that really helps me a lot is my breathing, following my breath, and just look at my breath and actually feel it go out and feel it come in and go through that experience, and then take time and rest and relax and then go back into it. That's all I can say. It's just we have to work with ourselves on it.
So the reason we need time on the earth is because we wouldn't be able to have a meeting if we didn't, all right? Let's just put it that way. And it's needed. It's part of the earth experience, the time. And also we age. Now, on the other side of the veil of consciousness, there is no time. Everything is linear. It's all happening at the same time. That's why when those of us that do channel are able to go to the other side and look at everything, we can see the past, the present, and the future. Although the future is changeable depending on what choices people make. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's my take on it.
Well, could you describe the three time elements, past, present, and future, in terms that are based on our senses?
Linear, meaning everything is happening all at the same time, simultaneously. That's the other side of the veil. Here, we have the time because we have calendars, we have things to do, we have to go to school, we have to write books, whatever the thing is. But that's the need of the earth experience, time. I don't know how best I can explain it.
It's very important.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap.
Yes, it used to be very difficult for me to understand that concept, because I said, how could it be? If there's time here, why isn't it everywhere else? And then one day, I don't even remember the details, I finally got it. But it is hard to explain.
One thing that's
visualize.
Helpful, Jack, it's very helpful,
yes,
is that you have to work with the concept. In other words, when you mention senses, you have to look at your senses, but you have to explore the senses and to see more, because the senses are telling you more than what you experience as the sense. In other words, the eye, what you see, is only what you see, but actually what you see is, you have to think about the object, and then your mind is what you're thinking. In other words, if you see a train, automatically your mind thinks the image that you think of as a train. So you got to process the understanding. And if we don't, we block ourselves up and we don't see that. But there's so much more you can see. Like even in pain, you can see more in pain. But if I concentrate on my pain, I can create more pain because I'm creating my mind to be in the pain. But also I can look at my pain and find at times the pain is healing. Like for example, you have a cracked rib, you feel a pain. But if you listen to the pain, you feel your rib is healing, and the healing part is the pain. And you get to understand that. But it's like what Tina's saying, it's sometimes it's something one way or it's something different another way. And once you understand something, you don't want to just stay there. You have to keep looking and have a look at it and see what the story is, because it's amazing how at different times it could be something different.
Yes, Lou, but when
you
say, Lou, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when you say you look at your pain, now, look is a visual thing. How do you look at your pain? Language.
For me to explain to you, I have to use the words that we know. That
yes, right.
I'm saying, look, but what I had said was there's three ideas. There's the senses and the object that you're thinking of and which you comprehend in your mind. But also what the other side is, if you got something wrong with you, what we're just talking about does not help you, but you have to do it. It's just like when you're blocked up about something and you're frustrated and you do it, that can cause a pain in you and can cause an illness in you. But if you look at it and you realize what you're doing to yourself and realize the tension you have, and then you work in a way like follow your breath to be able to be okay and to be able to have the energy, like question when the energy comes to you. But it's not enough to know what you know. It's what you know is to learn to more knowing, and you keep growing with the knowing of what to do and what not to do, and feel the energy and grow with it and be with it. And then also at times you can have energy and it can leave you and you question what happened here. And what happened is a helpful thing to learn from it. And so even in your mistakes, you can learn more from, you can learn a lot from your mistakes, you know? So it's endless thing, you know?
Okay.
That's all I can say. Okay.
So, Lou, it's difficult to find the words because energy explained in words, no matter what language, is very, very difficult to be precise in the understanding of it. Okay.
That's right.
Now,
it's beyond words. Beyond words.
Say, Lou, when you say you look at the pain, or you look at the fear, or what I say, I go right through the fear to get to the other side.
That's right. Exactly.
And that's based on time because of the earth experience. But when you go through the pain and you get to the other side, you're actually working with energy, with spirit, rather than human whatever.
And your perception changes, and your transformation of the perception changes. In other words, one perception can literally die. It's not your body that's dying, but it's your thought of understanding and your fear. But when you go through it and have new insights, you have a new understanding, and it can be a life-changing understanding with it. But the complete talk of the whole thing is beyond words, because it's the ultimate is ultimate, and we cannot be completely ultimate. We can learn things on a relative level, you know, and relative level is very important for us.
I didn't have my glasses on. Bethany, did Sue have a question? I thought I saw something coming up.
Sue Maisano had to leave.
Oh, she had to leave. Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't read what it says. Thank you. Very good.
Well, you know, it's very complicated because here we are, we function with our senses, and that's our reality. And then we have the abstraction of thought, which is contained in our brain, but it's in our living being. And then we talk about the other dimensions, and you know, there must be other dimensions because it helps explain in senses, in terms of the senses. I don't know. It gets very complicated, and I get very bewildered.
Jack, what about us being the other? What am I saying? Instead of other dimensions, the Earth experience is more of a dream, and the reality is, is what we call the other side, but it's really not the other side. We're experiencing a dream-like state right now for our experience. So what we're having right now is the illusion.
Okay. Have we painted ourselves into a corner?
Yeah.
I don't know if you understand.
Definitely, I agree with the
Yes.
fact that this the Earth experience is an illusion. Don't ask me to explain it.
Yeah, I've recently read a lot of NDE stories that state that this experience is like an illusion or is an illusion. So I've heard that as well.
So it's in our imagination. Is that what you're saying? I mean, is the illusion imagination?
And I also heard from Spirit that imagination is everything.
It's in the moment.
So I'm not talking with authority, as I never had an NDE myself. I just always read about them and talked to people like yourselves who've had them. But I've heard, you know, from NDE stories and other paranormal ideas is that we make our own reality. So in a way, yeah, we're kind of making this up as we go along and making up our experience.
Okay. Anyone else?
Jack, at the beginning of the meeting, you
Are there any
about
questions?
someone
Jack Laurie is talking.
Okay.
At the beginning of the meeting, you had Gary gave us an explanation of a concept and chakras, and I'm very new to that, and I was wondering if anybody wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Well, I'm not very well versed in chakras. I mean, I hear explanations and you know, these different levels of energy, etc. But Gary, is this something that you can put some light on?
Sure, I'm surprised no one knows about chakras. I'm surprised someone may not be familiar with chakras. They are recognized physical, metaphysical, I think understood as nerve plexuses in the body, meaning we have 7 chakras, and they do correspond with 7 locations along the nervous, the spinal column, the nervous system, where large masses of nerves enter and exit. If, in layman's terms, my own layman's terms, the main bundle of nerves that make up our, you know, our overall system, and maybe I'm going to lose my train of thought. They
I was just wondering if this was, is it a healing modality or a spiritual connecting modality?
No, I don't think I would call it a modality. It's basic operating functions in the body, somewhat recognized by Western medicine, more so recognized by Eastern medicine. And these plexuses, you know, are understood to be actual, you know, centers of our consciousness, subconsciousness, of our limbic. Someone's sharing, I guess. You know, parts of our functioning, of our mental functioning, also our spiritual functioning. It could be conscious or subconscious. I think we'd have to say that if often very much includes the limbic system, the autonomic nervous system, which is that which operates usually on its own, and would be very much involved, yes, in modalities, in healing, in balancing and regulating the energies in the body and the different functions in the body.
Okay. Ella and then Donna had their hands up. Thank you, Gary.
Sure.
So, like Gary said, we have 7 basic chakras in our body, and whoever showed the picture is such a perfect picture, and every chakra has different colors. So starting from the top, we have a crown chakra, and we have, which is the color, it's like violet color. And the second chakra, it's, oh, perfect. It's a third eye chakra. The color is indigo. And then we have a throat chakra, which is blue color. We have heart chakra, which is green color. And we have a solar plexus chakra, which is yellow, and a sacred chakra, which is orange, and root chakra is red color. So I'm the Reiki practitioner. So when people come to me, the first thing what I will do, I will clean the aura around the person and check the chakras, because it's very important. And I'm checking if we don't have any blockage. And if we do have a blockage, then I will concentrate more on this area. And if someone has a blockage in any of the chakras, means the energy, the universe energy, which enter our body through crown chakra, and the earth energy enters our body through root chakra. And then they go to our body, mix together, go to our cells, and help healing. And like somebody asked if this is the healing modality, yes, it is. This is how I feel. And then if we have a blockage in any of the chakras, then affects our physical body. And then we are starting not feeling well. So let's say, I will give you some example. I met someone and he didn't believe in any of this stuff. And then we were kind of joking. And he had heart chakra blockage. And I was working on him and he felt the energy. And then I said to him, not knowing nothing about him, I said, you know, his name was George. I don't do any diagnosis, but I think you should see the doctor, cardiologist. It's something not right around your heart. And he was like white on his face, and then he didn't want to talk anymore. He went to his room, and next day I find out then 2 weeks ago he had heart attack. And then we went for kinds of like a go away weekend, and they go because they felt he needs to relax, rest. And his cousin next day, she told me, she said, George has heart attack. And when you told him he has a problem with this heart area and he needs to see a cardiologist, he was so scared. And he was like, oh my gosh, who she is, how she knows. So we can, yes, we can sense if we feel and see that any of the chakras are blocked. Any questions?
Well, Donna had more to say about that. Donna?
Yeah, just like Ayla, I'm also a quiet. Just because I just like Ayla, I'm also a Reiki master teacher and practitioner. So I agree everything with what she said, but also they not only give us an idea of how our physical body is, they also give us an idea of how healthy our emotional and spiritual bodies are as well. So our mind, body, and spirit, they are all connected. So let's say your solar plexus, which is the center of your self-esteem, your self-worth, is, if it's blocked, it could be too small, it could be off center, it might not be the right color yellow, it may not be balanced. You have to figure that out. And somebody might be feeling too closed up. They may not feel they have self-esteem. And then on the other hand, it could be wide open and they could have too much. So it's part of the Reiki practitioner's job to help to balance all of the chakras so that people are in balance, mind, body, and spirit.
Thank you, Donna. All stated.
I'd like to share. I recently went for an energy healing to kind of, I started my new job today and I wanted to start it with a clean slate with I just wanted to start fresh. And so I went for an energy healing with a practitioner. She's actually a massage therapist and does energy healing. And the exercises that we did were to bring the energy of the earth up through the bottom of the chakras and divine energy from the top down into the body, and imagining that this divine bluish white light comes in from the top and the reddish earthy tone light comes in from the bottom, and they meet in the middle and they form a like a circle. It's like the yin and yang almost, because you have this wonderful energy coming from the earth and this pristine energy coming from spirit, and they come together in the center like your solar plexus, and then we're able to well, through the guided imagery, what my experience was that the energy actually passed out through my legs and hands and the top of my head in a big rush. And it just gave me a very clean, refreshing feeling. And I just felt on top of the world afterwards. So those Reiki people know what they're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Bethany.
That was great.
Anything else on chakras? Any other questions or subject you wish to discuss?
Oh, I just want to add that I was the one sharing my screen, and I put the link to that page in the chat, but it's a page I found at random, and it's just chakras for beginners. So that might help you and help you get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany.
Thank
you.
Yes, Robert?
I just had a quick 2 cents worth. Chakras have been around since man can remember. The Native Americans had chakras. They have more than 7. They have at least 9. Some have 11. Chakras are both a center for physical, as well as used in Reiki, as well as used for spiritual. The solar plexus is your chi. So in Oriental, whether it's martial arts or medicine, your chi is your energy source, your breath. The energy goes out and comes in through your chi, which is the solar plexus. When you do the chakras, you should always go from the base up. So you start from the root chakra and move up. It's not recommended you go down, because the idea is that you be centered. You start centered and move upward. Chakras can use light. They also have their own sounds. So you can find them on the internet. And you can use if you're like me, I use sounds because I'm colorblind. So it helps a lot. But there are many ways of doing the chakras. It's recommended, if you can, take the time to balance each day, and you have better health and you feel more grounded overall. But each one represents a part: your throat, your third eye, which Tina should be really in tune with, and your crown chakra. Really, you don't touch the head; it's just right just above the head. So it's not on top; it's just above. It's great, and I just recommend anybody try it. A great history. All religions carry it. Has really some powerful spiritual as well as physical healing involved. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. I've learned a lot.
Thank you, Robert.
Appreciate it.
So,
okay.
Jack, was there another question on that list of yours? I don't have mine in front of me.
Well, one of them was, why are there multiple healing modalities?
That's a good
Well, you have Western medicine, Eastern medicine, right there.
Yeah. Donna, you want to say something?
Sure. Well, as an Eastern medicine practitioner, Chinese medicine, as well as Reiki, which is also Eastern medicine, which is Japanese. Like in Japanese, chi is ki, so Reiki. Ki is universal energy, and in Chinese medicine, chi is the universal energy, and it's well known in Eastern religions and Eastern cultures that everything is made up of energy, and it's just a very foreign thing to us here. So when we have the question of why are there so many different healing modalities, it's like, to me, it's like asking, why are there so many different people in the world? It's because each of us, I think, or why there's so many different religions in the world. It's because there's always more than one path to get someplace. And there's different ways of describing. There's different languages. Different languages have different words and different ways of describing the same thing. It's like, I'm sure Ayla and I, we both do Reiki, but we learned from different teachers. And so she may have a different way of doing it than I do, because she may connect in a different way than I do. So even though we practice the same thing, we may do it in a different way. The basics of it will be the same, but because she and I are different vessels for this healing, we have a different way of connecting to spirit and bringing that healing out in the way we think about it and in the way that we're built. So there's just different ways of healing. There's healing through dance. There's healing through music. There's healing through hands-on. There's healing through intention. There's healing through just looking at people. And healing doesn't mean a 100% cure. It might be a healing of someone's soul. Maybe if someone is terminal, it may be not a curing of their illness, but a healing of them, so that they can be more relaxed as they enter their next phase of being. So there's so many different healing. Like, I practice a few different ones. I practice tapping. I practice, which also has to do with the meridians, because you're tapping on different ends of the meridians. I do Reiki. Sometimes I have shamanic visualizations when I work on people. The spirit animal will come in and work on somebody, and I'm just kind of like standing there watching in my head as something like that happens. There's breath, using the breath to help heal someone. There's so many different ways, because some people need different ways of healing.
Now, have either Elizabeth or you, Donna, done long distance kind of healing?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
I
All the time.
If I can add something, I would like to share with you. I read in one of the books of Deepak Chopra, and then he described so beautifully for us, because we have to look at us as a whole. And he compared us to the chair, and he said, chair has 4 legs, and if one leg is broken, the chair, it still will stand. But if 2 legs are broken, then the chair, it's falling. But if it's 3 legs are broken, the chair, it's falling down. But if 4, then we cannot use. And how we can this comparing to us? One, the leg is our diet, the supplements we take. It's only 25%. Then this is the one of modalities, Jack, because we have to, this is how we feel whatever we have on our plate. So we have to pay attention what we eat. We have to pay attention to the vitamins. And we all know then we hardly can get anything from the food these days. So the supplements are crucial. It's only 25%. Another 25% is the physical exercises. It's very important for us to move. It's very important to go for the walk. If we cannot go to gym during summer, swim, whenever, we have to move. If we are going to lay down, then doesn't matter how good we eat, we still are going to be sick. The third leg is our emotional being. It's very important if we know how to reduce the stress and anything, connected with our emotions. And the last leg, or whenever It's our connection with the spirit, with the energy we're talking about. It's only 25%. And in order for us to be healthy, this 4 legs has to be standing and be good. So this is why we have to have different modalities. We cannot stick with one. We cannot stick with Reiki. It's only 25%. What about the 75? We have to concentrate on our diet and we have to move. So when you put this 4 legs together, you are healthy.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Very good.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Well, this was quite an invigorating discussion. I thank you all.
So Jack, maybe we could send some healing energy to Rhonda, please.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Almost forgot. You know?
Rhonda, send some healing energy to Rhonda.
Do we know where Rhonda is located?
Yes, Jack knows. Jack, where is Rhonda?
Oh, she lives in Valparaiso, Indiana.
Okay.
It's a small city in the northeast part of Indiana.
Very good.
Thank you.
Actually, an art exhibition there many years ago.
All right, so we'll spend the last few minutes doing that.